So by now, you've probably seen the trailer to Disney's new Snow White. But have you heard about all the controversy surrounding this movie? Why was this movie set to be released in March of 2024 and had to be pushed back a whole year to March 2025? Why do both the teaser and the trailer have more dislikes than likes? And most importantly, why are people now calling for the cancellation of the main star, Rachel Zegler? Well, I'm here to explain everything. Grab a popcorn, grab an icy, because it's about to get dicey. So if you stay on top of movie news, you've probably seen all the backlash this movie is getting. But why? What happened? What did Disney do to turn their beloved fans against them? Or does this fall on Rachel Zegler herself? You see, for the past couple of years, Disney has been accused of pushing the so-called woke agenda, casting roles that don't quite fit the original characters, casting someone from a certain ethnicity to play a character with a different ethnicity. And I get it. Disney wants all their audiences to see themselves in the characters. So to explain everything, I have to take you back 4 years to 2021, where some people would say this movie was doomed before it even began filming. In this article by Deadline, dating back to June 2021, they broke the news that Disney casted Rachel Zegler as Snow White after seeing what she did in the remake of West Side Story, which she won Best Actress for at the Golden Globes. I mean, I get why they casted her. She can act, she can sing, and that's probably what director Mark Webb thought. If he sounds familiar, Mark Webb directed the Amazing Spider-Man movies starring Andrew Garfield, who's an English actor playing an American teenager from Queens, New York. When audiences found out about the Snow White casting choice, they were not happy to say the least. I mean, Disney was already getting backlash for casting Halle Bailey as the Little Mermaid. Personally, I think Halle Bailey was the best part about that movie, and if you haven't seen it, I have a quick review that I'll link down below if you want to watch that after this. So the original story of Snow White originated in Germany, and in the book, they go into full description of her character. Snow White has very white skin like snow, hair is black as ebony, and lips as red as blood. Rachel Zegler is half Colombian and half Polish, and so I guess you can see why people were upset and felt she was miscast, depriving someone of German descent from playing the role. And you know what's crazy? They shot the movie in Europe, where the story actually originated. Now, this may be a bad example, but imagine Disney made a live-action remake to Coco, filmed it in Mexico, but casted a non-Mexican actor to play Miguel. But despite the backlash, Disney pushed through and finished filming the movie, but it doesn't end there. Actually, some would say we are just getting started. But before we get into that, let's talk about today's sponsor, me. This video took hours of research, and all that I ask is that you like or subscribe, or leave a comment below if you like videos like this so I can keep making more of them. Alright, back to the video. The animated Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is one of Disney's greatest triumphs.
Of my Uncle Walt's filmmaking career, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the very first full-length animated feature in movie history.
Walt Disney himself invested everything he had into that movie.
Was immediately hailed as a masterpiece in 1937.
And without it, Disney wouldn't be what they are today. So with this new remake, Disney stayed loyal to the story and didn't change anything, right? I mean, the live-action remakes before that are exactly like the animated classics. So Disney stuck to that formula, right? In September of 2022, Variety interviewed the two main actresses of the movie, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, at a D23 Expo. And this interview would go viral for the wrong reason.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Now that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White, what did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Rachel Zegler's comments on the original animated classic was an insult to Disney and fans that love the original animated classic, and had people asking, does she even like Snow White?
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. never revisited Snow White again. So
Soon, fans found out that Disney changed the story entirely. She was no longer called Snow White because of the color of her skin, but instead called Snow White because she survived a snowstorm as a child. The prince also played a huge role in the original movie, but now I guess he's seen as creepy and the stalker. So what's his role in this movie then? Well, short answer, it's not.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
we have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie,
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But
Yep, there's no Prince Charming in this movie. I even Googled it for you guys to save you some time. And as you can guess, this did not go over well. The original movie's director's son called this pathetic and woke, stating there's no respect for what Disney did or what my dad did. They would be turning in their graves. Set photos from the new movie were leaked, and it seems Disney changed a couple of other things as well.
Good evening from London and welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Behind the scenes pictures from Disney's live action remake of Snow White were leaked this weekend. And there appears to be a sizable problem. Where are the dwarfs? They're gone, cancelled, banished. And not this time by the Wicked Queen. Now they've bitten the poison apple of diversity and inclusion, which has turned out to exclude them.
The dwarves were no longer, and instead replaced by what Disney calls magical creatures. Okay, so do you notice the difference from the title of the original movie and the title of this new remake? Disney changed the iconic title of the movie from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to just Snow White, because this is a whole new story entirely.
Still telling the story of Snow
Still
White,
Snow White,
and
yeah.
Seven Dwarfs.
Sure.
Look, take a step back and look at what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I know. That
And-
makes no sense to me.
But, oh, so
'Cause
what?
you can
what
be, you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward
oh,
story of
about-
Seven Dwarfs. The you did.
But why? The dwarves are so iconic, and some would say they're the best part about the first movie. Not to mention, this would have been Disney's chance to be all-inclusive, hire actors who rarely get casted in roles like this by Hollywood.
Photos just came out showing that the Snow White movie replaced the Seven Dwarves with seven average people instead. Do you think Disney made the right choice doing this?
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. You're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's for dwarfs, you know?
I know Peter Dinklage, criticized the film for having little people play dwarves because he said it typecast them.
It totally does.
It does, okay.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, people are saying it. Like what you said, it's taking jobs away. So how are you feeling about that?
It is. This is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Why are you hiring Snow White and the seven average people? You know? So if that's what they want to do, then I guess they're gonna have a lot of people angry at them.
Personally, I would have loved to see Peter Dinklage in this, or Wee Man. And honestly, it would have helped Disney bring in those Game of Thrones fans, or those Jackass fans who are now older, have kids, who want to see Wee Man in something different.
Do you think there's anything Disney can do to make this right? Like, what do they have to do,
Well, if they want to make it right, they redo the movie and they recast. And they get Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Or who knows, maybe they could have jump-started the careers of 7 new actors. Movies like the original Willy Wonka or the Lord of the Rings trilogy casted these actors, and I can guarantee you they would have not been the same without them. So, Disney was quick to respond, stating they didn't want to reinforce these stereotypes of dwarfism in Hollywood. And still, the fans were not having it. The damage was already done. This resulted in Disney having to delay the movie a whole year, change the new story to fit the original, replace the magical creatures, and surely try to save this production that is now costing them $269.4 million. So, the movie was delayed. Disney recasted the magical creatures and instead casted real actors to play the dwarves. Right? Right? In August of 2024, 5 months after what was supposed to be the original release date of the movie, Disney released the first teaser to Snow White, which is currently sitting at 101,000 likes and 1.4 million dislikes. But why? Well, Disney's solution was completely removing the humans entirely and replacing the dwarves with CGI, which sucks because Disney originally casted an actor who fit the role perfectly. But nope. No longer. He's now CGI. At this point, Disney was looking for ways to save this from being a complete disaster. Rachel Zegler was interviewed once again after all the backlash, and it seems she's sort of backpedaling on the comments she made before. It's almost as if Disney sat her down and had a talk with her.
Yeah, as a diehard Disney fan myself, who I feel like I see every release and opening weekend, it's just such an instant gratification that what we made is cared about so much, and that's a really wonderful thing.
I'm always grateful and I have to pinch myself.
But that wouldn't last. You see, Disney is a company that distances themselves from politics to appeal to all audiences, and portraying a Disney princess brings a lot of responsibility. You're gonna have a lot of eyes and ears on you. So it wasn't very smart on Rachel Zegler's part when just 2 days after the teaser released, she was promoting the movie on X, and she ended it by saying this. You know, everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but she was promoting a movie where she co-starred with Gal Gadot, who's from Israel. She even served in the Israel Defense Forces. And speaking of miscasts, whoever casted Gal Gadot to play the ugly evil queen, who's so jealous of Snow White's looks that she has to poison her, I'm just not buying it. Rachel Zegler's beautiful in her own right, but this is Wonder Woman we're talking about. Like, what are we doing here? But I digress. Needless to say, this started a beef between the two actresses and actually turned the feud from the fairy tale into real life. I guess they did that right. This led to fans boycotting the movie because of Zegler's remarks, and it seems that everything that Disney did to try to save this was for nothing. Surely, at this point, Rachel Zegler couldn't make things any worse, right? Well,
apparently telling Rachel Zegler to behave normally just isn't an option either. So the other day, in response to the presidential election, Zegler had a very public meltdown on her Instagram stories. She wrote, quote, "F you, Donald Trump." Then she proceeded to insult the 75 million Americans who voted for him, quote, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leading us towards a world I do not want to live in."
Needless to say, this didn't go over well at the House of Mouse, who received even more backlash for this. Now, fans were calling for the cancellation of Rachel Zegler.
There are growing calls tonight for Disney to fire Rachel Zegler, the star of its widely anticipated Snow White remake. It's because of an anti-Donald Trump post she made after the election, writing, quoting here, "May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace." Ziegler is now apologizing. She writes in a new post, let my emotions get the best of me, and I am sorry, contributed to the negative discourse.
In the final attempt to save this disaster, they cut the marketing budget by millions and canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances promoting the movie, one of which included her singing a song from the movie in full costume. A month later, in December 2024, Disney dropped the full-length trailer to Snow White. And I tried looking up how many dislikes it has at this point, but I couldn't find anything since YouTube has removed the dislike count feature. And judging from the comments, it seems that many people are not excited for this release. There's a clip going around of a scene that confirms that Disney did change some of the story to fit a more inclusive agenda.
And cheerfully together we can tidy up the place.
Now, I don't know if you guys noticed anything different about this scene compared to the original, so I went ahead and made a little clip just to show a side-by-side comparison.
Now you wash the dishes. Now you wash the dishes. You tidy up the room. You tidy up the room. You clean the fireplace. You clean those cobwebs. And I'll use the broom. And he'll use the broom.
Just slightly different, isn't it?
In my personal opinion, I don't mind casting someone with a different ethnicity to play a certain character, as long as they sell the role and stay true to that character. I mean, Hollywood has been doing this since the beginning of Hollywood. But aside from that, it didn't help that Disney changed the original story of the movie that built their kingdom. It didn't help that they tried to replace the dwarves and change the name of the movie. It didn't help that Rachel Zegler made comments diminishing the original movie. And it didn't help that Rachel Zegler took a political stance, turning her co-star against her and alienating half the country who didn't vote in her favor. So as of February 2025, the movie is set to come out next month. And if you're a fan of the original one, don't go in expecting this to be exactly like it.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
At this point, Disney's just trying to recoup some of the money they spent on this, and I'm still curious to see what they changed in order to try and pull this off. Of course, I'm going to be seeing this on opening day to bring you guys an honest review, but what do you guys think about all this? Did you guys know any of this was going on behind the scenes? Are you gonna go see this in theaters? Leave it in the comments below, and until then, I'll see you guys at the cinema.